zone, and being in that French-Canadian area, it'd be so easy for you, and probably easier to succeed because your peers and everyone is comfortable. But then going beyond that and being in the English community, and although it will be embarrassing and the language won't be so easy. This happens a lot with exchange students, or we say, 유학생. Many Koreans might go abroad and be in an area where it's, of course, the university is all in English, but they'll be with friends that all are Korean speaking. Well, maybe read the Korean newspaper, Korean dramas. You can get this in America, right? Yeah. But you're not advancing.
What I tell those people is that there's nothing wrong with those Koreans. You can still be friends with them. But the whole purpose of your trip, the whole purpose of going overseas is to learn a new language, make new friends, learn about a new culture. This is not going to happen if you spend most of your time with people like you. Might as well stay in Korea, save money.
That's right. Save money, save your parents some money. Well, this is really great. Great stuff. Tell me, how long have you been in Korea?
Long.
How long is long?
I first arrived in Korea in 1986.
1986?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've lived a total of 15 years since 1986. I first came here to work. I worked for Yugong.
Okay.
Now it's called SK Energy. And I worked for the international department of SK.
I see.
And that was for 1 year, 1986, 87. I came a second time in 1993. I studied Korean 6 months at Yansei.
Oh,
Yansei 학당 6개월 동안.
Were you almost like the first group of students?
No, Yansei was more before that.
Yeah.
But it was in a new building. And then I spent almost a year in 1993. And I came back, start coming back again in 1998. So I've almost lived straight since 1998 this time.
Have you lived here in Korea longer than Canada?
No.
Not yet? No. Not yet?
I'm older than you think.
You look very young. I don't know how old you are, and I'm not going to ask. Because that's one of the global etiquettes. We don't have to go into age, right?
Yeah. Personal questions.
I'll leave that later. At one point, while living in Korea since '86, then you must have seen the drastic changes and things happening. I mean, this was before our '88 Olympics that you were here. So tell us, in your eyes and what you saw and things that changed. Well, or didn't change?
Everything changed. I think the only thing in Seoul that didn't change are the mountains.
The mountains are still here, yeah.
The Han River is still there. Everything else changed. No, it was a very different time. People were not so accustomed to seeing foreigners. It was very, we get looked at a lot more. I mean, I know some friends who've been here since 1970s or 60s. Wow. That must have been worse. But for me in '86...
That was being a star. Walking down the street is being a star.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm a 외국인, I'm a star. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was very different, but I liked it right from the beginning, and I kept coming back. But the country has changed a lot, but I think it's the people that also have changed. The buildings are different, of course, but the people have changed, the mentality. Way back in 1986, and I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but in 1986, normal Koreans, it was difficult to get a passport. So very few Koreans were traveling at the time.
Yeah.
To get a passport, you had to go either to study or you had to be on a business trip. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but that was Korea at the time.
Yeah. Wow.
And now every Korean travels, and every Korean travels, and they're very open-minded about the world. And so it's a completely different place because of the people have changed.
What about the culture itself? Do you see it changing still? I'm sure it's still changing, but when you first stepped foot in Korea, do you see that change?
Yeah, I guess so. It's hard to say accurately, but I can see a difference. I guess people have always been quite open-minded to foreigners. Back then, we were, a person like me, fresh off the plane, I felt more like a novelty to a lot of people. So people were very interested to talk to me. Now, there's a lot more people like me on the street everywhere, so there's not that much of novelty, but I don't complain. But people, the culture has changed. Korea, Seoul is a great city. We say that New York is a city that never sleeps. Well, Seoul is a city that never stops.
That is true.
So it's a very dynamic place.
What was your first impression, if you remember, when you first came to Korea?
Very good.
Really?
Well, very good for many reasons. Well, the main reason was that I was very fortunate to go work for Yugong, SK Energy. For those who are familiar with, at the time, if you go back 1986, for young Korean university graduate, it was the #1 company of choice to work for. So
back in 86.
Back in 86. I don't know what it is now, but back in 86, it was the company where you wanted to work. So they were recruiting the best of the best.
I see.
And I was so fortunate to work in the International Finance Department, which was the best department of the best company. So people around me, surrounding me, were, I mean, fantastic. I mean, brilliant people. Very, very nice people. So I was so fortunate. I met great people on day one. And it just made me, gave me a great impression in Korea, and that's why I'm still here.
That's wonderful. I mean, do you still have friends back from 86? Are you still contacting your coworkers?
Back then, the office setup was very different. You had the kwajang in the back. And then, the daddy, and then the Hesawan, right, in the front. I was in the front.
You were the Hesawan.
Well, I was in the front. There was no computers on the desk, but, sections.
And no international department. It was...
Well, it was an international department.
Oh,
It was international finance, but we didn't have any computers on our desk. It was 1986.
Yeah.
But my point is that there was one guy sitting next to me, one person. He had received this diploma from the President of the Republic. He was the strongest student from the strongest university. He was the #1 student, graduate in Korea. So he sat next to me for 1 year. Now he's, I think he's a sangmu or chunmu in the SK group.
Oh, okay.
So this is a guy who joined the company at the same time, and now there's, gone up in the ranks.
Yeah. So do you visit him? Do you have coffee with him or
drinks?
Or drinks?
Yeah.
Talk about the old days.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you've remained friends with these people that you first started your company.
Even the people picked me up at the airport the first time. They're not SK, but they're recently I celebrated my 25th anniversary of landing in Korea, and we had a little party, and so I called them my blood brothers. Very close friends.
Wow, that's really great. Good to hear that you're still, friends with them and everything. They must be, when they see you, you must bring a lot of nostalgic moments back, or when you see them too.
Yeah.
That's great. Fabulous. Now tell me, you were working as a consultant then too?
No,
now you're a consultant?
I'm a consultant.
So tell me a little bit about your consulting field.
Well, since 1998, I've been running my own consulting firm. From 1998 to about 2007,